Let's see. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to today's episode of Soul Toast,
the Johnny and Janaiah show.
All right, girl.
All right, so we got to start out with our Johnny in the Know. So, Johnny, what do you know?
What I know is that Soul Toast took a huge, unnotified hiatus for like 2 months.
No.
We did.
I'm so glad that you brought that up as you're in the know because full transparency here.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a cover story. I'll tell you, I was gonna say life got busy and I ended up having to do, I had a cover story prepared. But one thing we've been promising to ourselves and all of our viewers is complete transparency. And I've tried to be as authentic as possible with Soul Toast. So on my end, I will say that the wave of it all kind of hit me. And I felt like I just couldn't show up with a smile and with enthusiasm and with excitement. And I just didn't want to be seen struggling. And so I just sort of sulked back into my little corner. So how about you?
It's the same thing. I think that, sometimes, I don't know about you, but as a life coach, I feel like people get this perception that we always have our shit figured out.
Yeah.
And, if we have a problem, we're like, oh, I know exactly what to do. But sometimes life just takes a big dump on you.
Right.
And it's overwhelming.
Yeah. And I think as a person, just, even before I got into life coaching, it's been a struggle for me when I'm not at my peak. And when I'm, I feel like I want to meet the expectations people have of me. And I tend to be funny and excited and enthusiastic. And I would almost say embarrassed, or I'm worried that I'll be disappointing, or people will have concerns, or, I guess I just really want to keep that facade going. And I think it can be very humbling and vulnerable to allow people to see, when you're struggling. And I know this was a back and forth because, you were dealing with things emotionally as I was dealing with things, and we were kind of taking turns being like.
And what was interesting is, I think at the beginning, neither of us wanted to admit it to the other until all of a sudden one day we were like, yeah, well, I feel like crap.
I feel like crap, you're crap. Yeah, it's like that. It's like the waters rise, and then all of a sudden you're underwater. My cat is moving my screen. Get out of here, kitty. But, we wanted to make a promise to our viewers. There's a cat tail here. We wanted to make a promise to our viewers, and I think it really holds true to the mission of Soul Toast.
Yeah.
And that promise is that if the waves come crashing in again, if we're feeling overwhelmed, if we're just not feeling excited and passionate and we can't really fabricate that emotion, we're still going to show up. Yeah. Because the reality of life, and what we both teach our clients, is that, life has its highs and lows, and it's not about burying yourself when you're going through a hard time. In fact, I feel that for viewers and anyone in my life, my transparency would be helpful to people. And I would like to push myself, though uncomfortable, to show up in that way for people to see. Sometimes I'm not happy.
Right.
I said it out loud. That was true.
Well, it is true though, because sometimes you just don't want to.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I will share this seeing how we're in full transparency.
Happening. The truth is falling out.
It is. But you know what? I think it goes back to what we were talking about people having this perception. And so for me, my funk, we'll call it, had been about being disabled. And, oftentimes I hear people will say, well, you were born with this. You've had it for 30 years, so aren't you used to it by now? But the thing is I think I'll speak for me. Although it's something I've had forever and it's all I've ever known, yes, it is what I've had, and I can figure out how to do things and deal with it. But there are times that it's just exhausting. And you're like, you know what? Today I don't want to deal with this. Today I hate being disabled. I hate depending on, someone, whoever it is, for assistance. And, that's sort of been my inner, I don't know what you want to call it, grudge about, that's the other thing. People will be like, well, look at this guy. He was born with no arms and legs and he's doing great. And I go, you know what? That's good for him, not for me. And guess what? He too probably has days that he's like, I hate this shit.
Yeah. I want to thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that. I actually think similarly, I have ebbed and flowed raising a child with a disability where it isn't something that goes like, oh, this is hard, okay, easier. It goes like better, worse, hard, easy. But it's very, and it's equally emotional to it is physically draining, and there's so many parts. And so I've gotten to see firsthand in watching him as he develops that it is not it's not linear. Is that, I don't know words good, but
I think that's the right word. It sounds good.
It comes and goes, it ebbs and flows, and it's so circumstantial, and things can come up that make it more prominent.
Right. Yes. And that's the thing. It's like, okay, so maybe for a month, I'll just use like something simple. I was able to change my own shirt myself. Mm-hmm. It's like, great, you're doing so good. But, maybe one day I have a struggle and I don't know, the shirt gets stuck or it's too tight and I can't get it off myself. Okay, I'm not going to be like, well, universe, what are you trying to tell me? And, oh, I've done it so well for a month now. No, now I'm going to be like, fuck you, shirt. I'm going to shred you.
And I love that you're sharing this. And I think one thing is for somebody like you, and something that I can relate to even though I don't have a disability, is that you're considered an inspiration.
Right.
They'll say like, you're such an inspiration and oh, it's so amazing, you do so well, even though you have this disability and you're so this and you're so that. And so that when you are struggling, it's like, oh, I'm not an inspiration.
Right.
And that becomes a part of your identity, and you don't want people to see you like that because, they have this view of you and you want to hold on to that. And I know sometimes even as a mom raising a child with special needs, people will say, I don't know how you do it. You're such an inspiration. And then some days I'm like, I actually didn't do it today. Not good. and I'm not an inspiration, and I need some inspiration. And when you're an inspiration who needs inspiration, I think the gut reaction is to go under your bed and stay there until it goes away.
Right.
And I've fallen into that where I'm just like, I just want to hide until I can figure this out myself.
Yes.
And it can be so humbling and so vulnerable to climb out and say to the people that you love. And sometimes their responses make it worse. I'm sure you've had that experience where somebody's like, well, you get along better, you get around easier than other people. And it's like, whatever, you just, like so it's hard to reach out when you are fragile because you're like, say the right thing, please say the right thing, I could break.
Right.
But I always wish, I'm like, I try and like contact my inner, like I'm like, what would I say to me if I was my client?
Yes.
And then I'm like, list 10 gratitudes, and I'm like, I'm so grateful that I'm angry right now,
Yes.
But no, I love what you shared, and I think for our viewers' sake and for ourselves, a promise to being vulnerable. It's so important to human connection, and to allow people to hold differing opinions of us, and that maybe somebody will see us as an inspiration, and then another day be like, she's not as cool as I thought, and I've got to be like, sometimes not.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, Yeah, not always have to put that suit on. Like to be able to get on this show and just be like, you know, it was a week. I'm feeling kind of drained. I'm pretty tired. I don't know that I have a lot of inspiration to offer you, but at least my face still looks great.
At least our faces look beautiful.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I think that's excellent. That, you know, I'm glad that we both opened up. And I think we should definitely stick with this commitment to all of our viewers to just be 100% transparent all the time.
Yep, we promise we will even have some bad days. We'll still be here. And in fact, you have a quote for us. We're going to be adding a quote of the week. So what's our quote of the week, Johnny?
So our quote of the week, and I'm probably going to pronounce this person's name wrong, is by Rissi or Rissi? I don't know. Rissie. I don't know how to say that. But Rissi Harris says, if you are having a bad day, get another one and get it quick.
I like it.
I like it.
So yes, some of we're working our way out of some funks for sure. And I've been focused lately on keeping my eye on my intentions as opposed to some of my circumstances that have felt overwhelming. And I think sometimes we choose to look at the circumstances and allow ourselves the emotion of those, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So it's important that we validate ourselves, that we're not always telling ourselves that we need to feel good or feel better. Second to that, I want to close out with our fan life hack.
Ooh, do it.
It's from Karen.
Hey, Karen.
Says web shows grow their fan base faster when they don't unexpectedly disappear for 2 months.
What?
Did you know?
I didn't know that.
Okay, Karen. Well, thank you for the life hack, and we are going to take that into some major consideration and maybe not fall off the planet anytime soon. How about it?
Wow, Karen, you're so smart.
Karen knows everything.
Karen knows all the things.
I bet Karen has an ugly dog. I just feel it. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny, it's time for our awkward closing where we try to figure out the way to say goodbye. I was going to finish my mozzarella cheese stick while you close it out.
Cheese.
I know. So good.
Yeah, well, let's see. Where is this thing? It's been so long. I don't know how to end this.
End it.
Maybe it's this button that says stop.
Ooh, biscuits.
Stopping.